is Elevate Your Business with Smart Marketing. We're going to go through about maybe 8 questions or so. There'll be a Q&A at the very end. And we're just talking about how we can grow our businesses when we're not the marketers. It's really about these quick tips and being strategic and smart with our time and resources. So I will let each panelist introduce themselves in a bit of an elevator pitch, and then we'll go from there. Let's start here with Suzanne.
I'm Suzanne Rodriguez. I own Frameworks Creative, where I offer branding, photography, and marketing for small businesses and nonprofits. I believe too many business owners don't know where to start when it comes to marketing. So Frameworks Creative exists to give business owners the tools they need to do marketing right from the beginning and to be excited to share what they do with others while staying within their budget. So my goal is to help business owners pursue their passions so that as a city we can thrive more together.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katira Poland. I'm the CEO and founder of Love for Words. It's an editing and copywriting company. So I work with authors and also businesses to help them craft their messages and information to resonate with their target market. I'm an editor. I'm also a writer and published author. So all literacy is points to me. That's what I love to do. And help other people tell their stories. And for me, the most important thing is the authenticity. Because if you're speaking authentically, your target market will naturally be attracted to you. So that's part of my job in helping people disseminate information, share their stories, and educate other people.
I am Asanta Davidson. I am the owner of Be Renewed. My business started off as a brick and mortar location where I was trying to bridge the gap between hair and mental health. And so I had a full stylist team of cosmetologists. I also had a therapist that did cognitive therapy on site. And we created a tri-holistic approach to hair. We found that a lot of African American women were not just suffering from hair loss, but also mental health and depression. Now I've pivoted since the pandemic, and I have just an online community where I'm trying to, engage with them and kind of be like the next Netflix for hair, where I bridge all of the people that want to actually put videos and information out and kind of create a hub for those people. And so right now I'm working on Be Renewed University, where I educate, where I help stylists also open up salons that are similar to mine, and also help people do it yourself at home. I have a new product that is out right now and just a big following that's growing. And so that's my focus today.
Love it, love it. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Alexis Russell. I work with the Venture Jobs Foundation. I've worked with them for about 6 years now with marketing, so I'm serving as their marketing director. Aside from that, eXp Studio, I am a co-founder of this location that we are in with my husband and a good friend of ours from college. This space is open to the community to use for events like this, for photo, video, dance. You see the mirrors behind you. I hope they're not distracting today. We have a recording studio. We'll call it a podcast studio, and then a post-production studio as well. So let's dive in. Our first question is, when you first launched your businesses, how did you let people know that you existed? I know that's sometimes like, I have this business now, how do I get it out into the world? What is my first step? So we'll go Asanta, Katara, and then Suzanne.
For me, I was already online. I was a YouTube influencer, just social media influencer anyway. And so I think that for me, marketing came kind of easy because I was already sharing my story. And so I think, my personal approach was allowing people to kind of know what's going on in my life. I actually suffer from hair loss myself with my second son. And so sharing that suffering and also, connecting with the people that were watching me, it kind of just drew them into, wanting to know more. And then as I posted, I became like the expert in the area and people wanted to learn from me. I think once you become someone that can kind of like, be relatable, like you were talking about, I was my authentic self. I was just talking about losing my hair, having my baby, and, the depression that I was dealing with, and people connected with that. And then when it grew in numbers and I actually had a product, it was easy to market the product before them because I already had the heart. So that's how I marketed.
Yeah, I would say social media. I'm active on social media, so that was one way. Another thing that I did is I did sponsorships. So I lived in Savannah, Georgia for a few years, but I did see that here in Rochester, we had the Rochester Black Authors Expo. So I sponsored the event, even though I didn't live here, I'm from here. So I sponsored that event. And then later I was actually asked to join that board, which is another way that you can promote your business that we might touch on later. I will also say using like alumni spotlights. So I went to UB, and sometimes they do spotlights on their alumni. So even opportunities like that were very helpful in getting the word out. And things like this, like panels and workshops. So I did a lot of that, and also vendor opportunities. So like I would sign up for expos and promote my book, but also at the same time promoting I'm an editor. So it was kind of like a 2-for-1 package there. So that's also another thing that I did to promote my business.
I think for me, it I wasn't naturally out there already, but I was in the marketing world. I volunteered for a lot of years at a local church, and that's where I really learned a lot of the skills that I use now with my business. And so I just started talking about it, about what I was doing, and so really that's where I my first few clients were friends. And I was doing it at a lower price for them. They were helping me learn my process, and I was also getting them a visual brand or a working marketing strategy with them on businesses they were hoping to start too. So that's really where I started with marketing, was just talking. And then obviously, yes, getting set up online, understanding who are good partners for me, who are what organizations are connecting with that audience that I want to connect with, and building relationships with them. So yeah.
I love that. So you have thought leadership, kind of becoming like a thought leader and a go-to expert in your field. You have putting yourself out there, alumni spotlights, panels, right? Not being afraid to get out there and tell your story. And then you have, starting with friends and family, right? Really just working within the network that you have. And so I love how each of them were so different. And after this, I just had a thought. I'm going to put together a tip sheet of everything that we talked about, and I'll send it out to everyone as well. So our next question, um, let's talk about wins. So we get to the struggles later, but let's talk about some wins that you've seen with simple marketing efforts, things that anyone can do. I actually want to start, Katira, you and I had a conversation a few weeks ago. If you want to dive maybe even a little bit into the PR aspect of it, we can start Katira, then Suzanne, and then Asanta. So just quick wins with simple marketing efforts.
Yes, so I am subscribed to the Venture Jobs newsletter. So I saw the opportunity to be a guest on the podcast with Alexis. So that was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We had a very, educational, important, empowering conversation. And afterwards, she invited me to be on this panel. So there were two opportunities that came out of one. And again, that was me taking the initiative to reach out, and then an invitation came out that I wasn't expecting. So you never know what will come out of, opportunities. You can get 3 or 4 opportunities out of one. Um, and who knows what will come out of the podcast when it airs. There might be people who see it who become clients or refer me to people who they know need an editor, a writer, etc. So that was a quick win. I didn't pay to be on the podcast. I didn't pay to be on the panel. So again, there are free opportunities to promote, but that one definitely comes to mind. Just keeping an eye out for opportunities. I will say, there's confidence involved with that. Sometimes you don't feel like, maybe you don't feel you're good enough to be on the podcast, but I would say don't let that stop you, and still move forward even if you're not fully sure. And we're never really 100% ready anyway. So if you see something that feels good to you, you think could be beneficial to you and your audience, you should definitely reach out and express an interest.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was thinking a couple of the questions were asking about when you first started. So one of the first wins that I would say, this was back when I was volunteering for my church. I had really made an effort to build up the Google business profile. So making sure I'm updating pictures, all the information's relevant, posting on there, like you can post there like you can on other social media, and keeping that, asking for reviews actively, and having that be a place that I was being intentional about. And literally, I ran into a few people after a few months of doing that that had come through the doors because they found us on Google. So just like something simple, it's free to set up. As a business owner, you should definitely have one, and be using it, keeping it just like your social media, keeping it relevant, keeping it updated. And then another quick win, I'm like trying to think which, I'll come up with another answer if this was another one, but I think something that is, and when I'm thinking quick, it's going to take some preparation, but in the long term, it will be really beneficial. And I would say setting up a really valuable lead magnet, so something that you can give away that's establishing yourself as an expert. Obviously not giving away your expertise, but helping them. What's something you can give away that would get them a step closer to being like, oh, I really want to engage with them more. And they would obviously give you their contact information in exchange for that. So getting that set up and automated. And I would say that's something that a business owner should be thinking about right from the beginning. But definitely, and you can have more than one, obviously, but there's client relationship management systems that you can use for free at the beginning with limited contacts, and I'm still using one that's free, and so depending on what you're looking for and what your needs are, it's affordable. It just takes a little bit of effort, but it's really worth it in the long run, especially having it automated and having it be something that really is a sales tool. It gets someone closer to wanting to engage with you.
Love it, Asanta.
If we're talking about early wins, I would say my first early win was when I got my first brand deal. And to be honest, like, being on social media and sharing like your inside life, it can get kind of scary because people want to know more. They want to know why your clock is wrong in the background. They want to know why your kids are crying. Like, they just want to know everything. And so I struggled at first with like, okay, I'm only doing my hair. I kind of want to show my hair skills. And I thank God that I kept just doing my hair, because brands thought that I was different because I was able to do these really hard styles on myself. And so my first brand deal was with this company called Curl Collab. They reached out to me. I didn't care if they was offering me $1. I was just excited. So they reached out to me and they're like, hey, we seen your video using our hair. We want to bring you on as an ambassador. And so me not doing any research, I'm like, yes, let's jump into it. So I became their brand ambassador, and I started, promoting their videos. I had like this signature hairstyle that I was doing that was really hard to do on yourself. And fast forward to like maybe a couple months afterwards, I had my first viral video, and I got paid a lot of money off that one video. And then they told me that I was their top grossing ambassador in New York State. And so they started bringing me in to do more work. They flew me into Atlanta, into this beautiful mansion, and we did a full spread campaign. And right now, to this day, they're using all of my pictures on their website. And so it gave me so much exposure in the beginning. And if I knew what I know now back then, my prices would have been a little bit different, but I was just excited to just, have a deal. So that was a really big win for me.
I love that. It's double-sided. So it's taking a risk, not knowing, and putting yourself out there, but then also not even having a brand deal experience before and just being excited about opportunities that come your way. But I think the core of it was really leaning into your expertise. You said you were doing a hairstyle that, was really hard to do on yourself, and you kept doing your own hair. So it's like really just leaning into yourself. And so that kind of goes into that authenticity. And so I love that when you're marketing yourself. This is my marketing director hat coming on. When you're marketing yourself, it's really about being authentic first. And I know it's a buzzword now, but it's about being yourself, really leaning into your passion, what you know that you're good at, your expertise, and then kind of building on that. So I love that example. So we're going to kind of switch gears here, and we're going to talk about some of our struggles, right? As business owners, as entrepreneurs, we struggle. I know I do. So I want to kind of dive into some of those moments when you tried a marketing effort and it didn't work or it didn't pan out, and how you kind of pivoted from that, moved forward, used it as a lesson, a stepping stone What's a struggle that you've gone through when you've tried to put your business out there and it just didn't seem to be working? Marketing is like, it takes a long time to gain traction, and so it can be really frustrating, especially when you're not necessarily an expert in it. So struggles, what have they looked like? How have you pivoted? How have you learned from them? How have you grown? Let's go, Suzanne, Katira, Asanta.
So I'm thinking of one particularly pretty recently. So one of the products I offer is some digital marketing, and so I signed up for myself for a few months, and it's something that's for businesses that are a little bit larger than those I usually work with, and so as I signed up, I thought it would be great. I want to, obviously use the products that I'm selling, um, but it didn't work out that well for me, and I just wasn't able to dedicate the budget that was needed to really get a good result. Is the bottom line. But I think it was a really great experience because I can be honest with my clients now. I can be like, you really need to have this budget, right, in order for this, and 6-month commitment minimum, really, to see results from this product. I really believe in it. I worked in programmatic advertising for 10 years. I know, if you're consistent with it and you have the budget behind it, it can be really powerful. But just knowing that not every business, that's not going to be where they're at or what their need is. So understanding the size of your business, the budget that you have, and then the people you want to reach. Obviously, your audience should always be a part of your marketing planning, but just where do those overlap? So recognizing that every single business is going to be very different, and that's okay.
Yeah, and similarly, I had signed up for, I made an investment in a program, and the outcome wasn't what I expected or what I wanted, but it was more so about proving to myself that I should always bet on myself, and that fear is usually a sign that you're doing something good. Not that you should retreat, even though that's what we do. But it was a large investment. It didn't turn out the way I wanted, but I'm glad that I had the confidence to move forward anyway and see it as a learning experience. I was able to get a lot of resources and materials out of it that I can still reference. So I won't say that it wasn't a loss. It didn't turn out the way I wanted, but I was still able to learn and able to feel good about moving forward, even though I was afraid.
Um, I think first of all, I struggle with consistency. Like with social media, you can have the numbers, you can have this big following, but if you're not consistent, it doesn't matter. So you want, numbers to turn into conversion. So with me, I feel like my life and then my business life, like when things happen in my life, I kind of slow down on social media. And so that hasn't always worked well for me because people are like, well, where are you? What's going on? And then you come back and it's like, oh, you got a product. You just want to sell to us. So I've learned that when I've taken these long breaks, I can't just come back and be like, hey, bye, bye, bye. I have to give them me first and, kind of touch base with them and also have like that mixture. Because I find when you're constantly like, hey, come buy this product, but you're not really educating or engaging with them and want them to engage back, it's kind of like, okay, like this is just some kind of cash thing that you got going on. And so consistency with that, and even now, me working full time at RIT, trying to be consistent. I just rebranded and relaunched last year in August. So being consistent in that, it's like, okay, well, now I can show them both sides of me. I can also show them that I'm working as a program manager and intertwine what I do in my day life, with in my business and still talk to them in that way. I don't have to separate the two. And so I'm trying to have that balance right now to do that. And so now I feel like marketing for me looks like, yes, a product, but also engagement and doing that simultaneously so that it's not always buy, 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 but I'm also engaging with you and you're still feeling that personal draw to me and you can still trust me. And I'm just not trying to, get you to buy a product.
I love that. Let's kind of stick with social media, but then we're going to pivot a little bit. So not all businesses are on social media or they're not as active. And we kind of forget that there are still traditional ways to market your business, right? So I love PR because it kind of gives you that visibility that really scales you and has the power to really reach the community with what you're doing, whether it's a product or a service. I want to know if anyone can take this, but has PR, has working in traditional media, news, television, radio, print, have you used those methods and has it worked for you? And can you kind of walk us through that journey? Anyone can take it. I see you nodding.
Yeah, well, the majority of the PR I've done, I hired a PR person. Magnon Media Management is who I work with. So she takes the responsibility of pitching me to news and things like that. So I've been on TV. I was on the cover of Democrat and Chronicle. So it's always nice for people to recognize you. I know I was working at the city at the time, and a couple of my colleagues had seen me on the cover and they wanted me to sign it. So that's always feel good and important. And some people, have seen me on the news. So it definitely has its benefits. Again, it comes with that confidence piece. So a lot of people are afraid to be on TV or on camera or be featured. But as a business owner, you really can't afford not to be confident. If you want your business to grow, you have to have that piece. Unless you can, if you want to hire someone who is the ambassador for your business, so you don't have to be. But usually in the startup phase or when you're a solo entrepreneur, you don't have that option. So you can start small. Maybe you start your own podcast. That way nobody's watching you. You can record and then let them see you when you're not live. But there's many ways you can do it. But yes, to answer your question, PR is definitely helpful, beneficial, get your name out there. For me, I use it for my event typically. So I founded National Black Authors Day, which was actually Sunday the 4th, May 4th. But the first 2 years I hosted events. So I did, work with my own media management to help me pitch those events. But yes, PR has definitely been helpful. It's worth it. You can pitch yourself, or if you have a budget, you can hire someone to do that piece for you. There's lots of resources and tools out there if you don't know how to pitch. So don't be discouraged by that. But yes, I definitely recommend PR, either doing it yourself or hiring someone to do it for you.
Love that. Does anyone else want to? Okay. So on the PR and leaning into community events, things like that, how have any partnerships or community events helped you to gain visibility or even talk about the importance of partnering with people? And whether that's other business owners, right? We have this like competition mindset so often that we forget that working together actually propels us further and faster. So if we want to kind of take it that route, but I really want to talk about how these community partnerships work, if you've done them, what they look like. I know you talked a little bit about the brand deal, but any other partnerships that have helped you grow?
Probably in the last 2 years, I've been asked to, speak more. And I actually like these kind of atmospheres where you get to talk amongst other entrepreneurs because I feel like you learn so much, from these kind of experiences. I spoke at um, the Women Empowerment. It's by Mary Tina. She's amazing. And you don't know until you step in kind of, those spaces, what you're capable of or what's going to happen. And so I think with me stepping out, because I was just like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to be on nobody's stage. And when people approach me, they're like, but you talk all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but it's just me and my camera. But when I started to do it, it's like, oh, and like you said, like, if I'm scared of it, I kind of want to lean towards it. But then when I started to do it, I'm like, I really like this. So it like expanded my mind to really want to be in those kind of spaces. And then I met so many people in doing it. And so I think it's important to collaborate. I think it's definitely important to like have just regular sober conversations and just talk. And then people get to hear like you behind the author, us behind our business. And you get to really know the person, our passions, what we believe in, what we stand by. And I think that's important.
Yeah. For me, definitely partnerships have been a much bigger piece of me gaining clients than I ever imagined. It also opened up a whole line of business, I guess, in terms of marketing instruction. So I partner with a number of organizations who support entrepreneurs. We have a great ecosystem here in Rochester, and there's a number of them. And so some of them are paid, some of them are not paid, but many of them lead to paid clients for me. And where we all want to support the client, and we all have different things that we're offering them. So they're happy to refer to me. I'm happy to refer to them. And it's like I said, it's opened up. I never imagined that teaching marketing would be something that I do, and that's been a significant part of how I spend my time.
Yeah, and I would just say that I think when we hear partnerships, we automatically assume it's like public, like everybody knows, but there are a lot of partnerships that are behind the scenes. So, like you were saying, I have partners and like who are publishers, and we refer clients to each other. Some of them come with a referral incentive, some of them don't, but partnerships don't necessarily have to be publicized for whatever reason. You don't want to, you don't need to. Keep that in mind. So even if you're working with someone who supports something that you do. Like I said, like I work with publishers, so they might have a client who needs an editor. That's a partnership. It's not necessarily something that we're, blasting on social media, but it exists and it's still a part of collaboration.
I want to add to that too, because that's a good point. A lot of people see the competition, but they don't really see the collaboration behind the scenes because we do collaborate a lot more than what people think. I went to your website 'cause I always like to look and see who I'm sitting with, but there's so many people that you authored their books and even like in the stylist or cosmetology realm, like we talk off the scenes all the time, like, hey, this person needs this expertise. You don't get to see that, but of course you see the negativity in the competition, but there is a lot of collaboration here. You just got to get with the right people and work with it.
I don't know how many people, excuse me, are still on Facebook, but Facebook really does have a ton of different groups local. That was one of the ways that I promoted this event in particular, was really getting into those Facebook groups, putting up your flyer, connecting, engaging with people. But that's also how you find your people, the people that will help you to grow your business, to lead you to other clients and customers, but really kind of being okay with and confident in sharing your business online, but then also engaging with others. I was taught a while back to be not just interesting, but interested in what others have to offer, right? Because it's community, it's about growing together at the end of the day. Okay, so we are all entrepreneurs, business owners in some capacity, in some way. And so we're wearing 50 million different hats. On top of the business world, we have kids, we have just life in general. And so I kind of want to talk about how we carve out time specifically for marketing. So if you have any go-to strategies, what's worked for you in the past, we may not always know. Again, we're entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. We're not necessarily marketing experts, except for Suzanne. But but with that, how do we carve out time in our days, in our weeks, specifically to focus on marketing? What has helped you? Let's go, Suzanne. Katira Asanta.
I think one of the main places to start is to make sure that your larger business goals have some sort of marketing measurement attached to them, right? Marketing objective. So have them connected to a goal you're already working on that you want to see come to fruition. And then calendaring it. It doesn't happen if it's not on my calendar. So I would say I definitely recommend doing it in bulk, especially if you're going to be away. I know I want to work a lot less this summer than I do the rest of the year, and so I'm gonna spend extra time planning out a few months of content, getting it all scheduled and ready to go, so I don't have to think about it, and having that run, even though I'm working a little bit less, but being intentional, planning it, and having it connected to your larger business goals.
Yeah, I would agree that batching it really works well. When I had my podcast, I would do all of my podcast stuff like in a block instead of spreading it out, and then also scheduling social media in advance. Like you can take 2 hours and schedule your social media for the whole year. So I do that as well. So batching definitely works for me. And then, like you said, everything's on the calendar. It doesn't exist if it's not on the calendar, with reminders, multiple reminders.
And if you ignore them, reschedule them.
Yes. Um, I just got overwhelmed when we started talking about calendars. Yeah, I would say for me, automations are like my best friends right now because I just don't have the time. But then, even me saying that, even just listening, I'm like, we really do have the time. I'm just not making the time for it. So, with all of my kids and then being a full time at RITQ and even doing their marketing and their stuff, I really have to carve out. And if I find myself scrolling, I should be probably recording content. And so definitely calendaring, batching, and automations. I'm actually working with a lady named Krista, and she's going to help me, do some email marketing. I think that's like a really good tool right now, especially if you have a product. It's those email funnels where it's just automated and they're getting something before them constantly. That's important. And if you are creating content, you got to like record at least 4 videos at a time and then kind of schedule it out because you just don't know what's going to happen, especially if you have kids. And so, I mean, that's what I'm doing now, just automating everything so that it just runs without me even thinking about it.
Because we spend so much time working in the business, and we need to be working on our businesses. And so I love that. So in the interest of time, my grandmother always tells me to stop speaking so fast. So I'm working on it. But in the interest of time, because I want to make sure that we have time for questions, I'm going to go through one final question, and that is, what is one piece of advice you would give to entrepreneurs who are struggling with marketing? And I guess I'll kind of leave it at that. Struggling with marketing, a piece of advice to encourage them to not give up.
I'll start. Um, I think the biggest thing is, if I can take a piece from my life, just start. Number one, um, do everything afraid. I don't care if it, yeah, if it just do it, right, or else you'll never do anything. You'll be paralyzed. But do it afraid, do it, and then allow yourself to be okay at failing because failing does teach you. It teaches you just as much as success teaches you. And in marketing, you have to understand who you're marketing to because then you'll be wasting time. I would say definitely knowing what platform is best for you because a lot of people waste time doing that too. It's like, okay, I want to be a YouTuber and your content may not do well on YouTube. So I think taking the time to do research on what platform works best for you specifically and then learning how that platform behaves so that you know what to post on that platform. And then eventually being okay with bringing in help. Do not be like me and think you can do it all. And bringing in help could be, hiring somebody to just do a couple of different things that can take things off of your plate because you want to remain a creative. I mean, I remember when I was, doing all of these things in the beginning and then eventually I just had no ideas because I couldn't think and I couldn't create. And so you want to remain the creator and let the person do the marketing eventually when you can get there. But do it afraid and be okay to fail because failure can teach you too.
Yeah, I would say be open to pivoting. So the way that you envision the business might not be the way that it turns out, and that's okay. And that pivot might be necessary so that you don't have to close your doors. So be okay with making changes. It's okay to adjust if you need to decrease services or add a new service. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with pivoting.
I would say you have the main tool that you already have the biggest asset to doing marketing, and that is knowing why you're doing what you're doing. So your mission and understanding your audience, who you're targeting, and how you can make their life better, right? So if you have that strong base, and if you don't, that's okay too, but work on that first, would be what I would say. And then, so you likely already have the main tool for marketing, and that's understanding your mission, understanding your audience, And then I would say just get out there and start with the free tools, right? That's a great place to start. There's so many. And maybe we can provide a list, like maybe each of us could kind of send resources that we didn't have time to talk about today. But like I said, that's how I started, is doing budgeting for $0 for a church, a local church. So there's a ton available. Start there. And then yes, as Asanta mentioned, like outsource once you have the money. What are the things that you really don't like to do, and pay somebody to do those.
Love it, love it, love it. So now we're going to take questions from you all. So any burning marketing questions, anything we didn't cover? I know I can talk to these peeps for like ever, but are there any questions from you all? Yes.
Santa, you did the RIT, Imagine RIT, right? At a booth.
Yes.
So what are your strategies, and for anyone too, what are your strategies for tabling to get the most out of that? Because it's very tiring to talk to that many people, and I wonder, lead capture, what are you really talking about? Who are you trying to reach? What's your strategies for tabling?
It's interesting you brought that up because I don't feel like I was a good fit for Imagine RIT, honestly. And I think it taught me something though. And maybe it was location, but I had the opportunity because I also get coaching from Venture Creations. And in that kind of environment, it was, a lot of technology going on. And for what I do, I would say, a technology component. I was offering free scalp consultations and Zyto scans, which is a technology that I use to give me biometric readings of your internal body. I thought that because I had those technology pieces to my business that I would do well in that atmosphere, but not a lot of people came to my table. But one lady did, and she said, you would do well at this health and wellness symposium that Rochester Regional does. And so I did make that connection, and it just taught me that in that space, Be Renewed was not the person to be there. So when I have tabled at more like medical wellness things, and even over hair tabling events, I do well in spaces that are geared towards medical hair. And so I think it's important to know where you are, who your audience is, who's going to be there. And even giving the free analysis that I was giving, those people, it's like, who here? So a whole bunch of students, everybody, I was just looking at everybody, it's a lot of people with a lot of hair here. Everybody got a head full of hair. And so what I did was, when people came to the table, I talked about my Zyto scan, because you don't have to be dealing with hair loss to get a scan for, wellness. And so I talked more about that. And so I kind of pivoted while I was there, and I'm like, okay, let's do away with hair loss. Nobody is here dealing with this. Let's just talking about knowing what foods you shouldn't be eating. And then people did start coming to my table. I guess people were like telling other people, like, go get a scan. So you got to know where you are and who the audience there, so that you're not wasting your time doing these things.
I'd say definitely yes. That's number one, right? Just like online, we don't want to be on platforms that don't make sense for our audience. That definitely makes some will make sense to be at, some will not be. But also be really clear on what's your one action that you want them to take. This specific audience. I know you have multiple audiences, right? So think of which audience is this event going to be primarily involving, and then what is the one action I want them to take. And then, right, is that a lead magnet? Is that what's the primary call to action that I want them to take? How do I want them to engage in my business later, eventually? And is there a little stepping stone that you can invite them into during that tabling event? And I would suggest even planning down to a conversation. Like, what would a conversation look like? What should it look like at those events?
Love that, love that. Always have a call to action. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, we'll go here, then we'll go Jason.
Okay, you sure?
Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, you've been talking a lot about marketing and audiences and all these social media, but how did you find who your audience was? How do you know that who you're seeking out is on the platform that you think that is best fit for your business? And how do you know if you've been effective?
I'm glad you asked that question because that was one we didn't get to.
Yeah.
For me, I think just time. I knew I wanted to work with small business owners, but I think it adjusted over time to small business owners at the beginning of their, like in ideation stage, at the beginning of their journey is my primary target audience. I obviously also have other audiences, but over time, it took time. I kind of started with this idea and it was similar, but I did make some adjustments to be a little bit more clear and also understand how I'm different than other marketing agencies, right?
Yeah, and when I work with clients, they complete a consultation form. So it asks them questions like, why are you writing your book? Or what is your goal? What are your objectives? What would you like to focus on working with an editor? Things like that. So I did like an inventory of the clients. So I looked at the demographics and realized most of them were writing memoir, most of them were Black women, and then paying attention to the referrals. So a lot of the clients I were getting were the same. So then I realized those were the people who resonated most with me, and just continue to welcome them. And obviously they can go on my website and see who I've worked with, and they tend to, look like each other in a lot of instances. So just doing an inventory and taking a look at the data that I have to show me, okay, this is who, likes to work with you.
Yeah, I think too, once you start putting stuff out there, your customers will begin to tell you who they are. They begin to speak. I took a class with YouTube University a long time ago, and we did like these case studies of the people that were watching our channels. And so YouTube had us go into their like liked content, and then we got to see like behind the scenes. Okay, they watched your video, but what else are they looking at? And so it helped us understand that, okay, if Suzanne is, watching Asanta's video, after that, she's probably going to, watch a video on anxiety or depression. And so it kind of teaches you that, okay, she's dealing with hair loss, but she's also dealing with the fact that she's kind of sad over her hair loss. And so you kind of get to understand who those people are. And I think, again, as you begin to grow, it's like, okay, everybody that's watching my videos, when they're commenting, they're asking me certain questions about my lifestyle, or they're asking me questions about how do I manage my kids. And so I'm like, okay, I have a mom network here that I can kind of speak to. And then I have people that are like, okay, well, I'm opening up a salon. So I'm like, okay, I have on 3 videos, I have at least 10 people asking me about opening up a salon. So clearly, I also can reach the salon owner that wants to open up a salon just like me. And so your clients begin to tell you who your target market is.
Jason.
Leave it to me to ask the most boomer question ever, but do I need a TikTok? What is TikTok?
I think that goes right back to the first question, Jason, is who is your audience?
Yeah.
And how do you research how your audience gets how do you research your audience's proclivities on where they're getting their information from, right? So my question would be actually, who's listening to TikTok?
Yeah, I'd want to know, right, what you're, sorry.
Oh, so a lot of people, because the way you ask is like, you think of TikTok, what do you associate it with? Dancing?
I've never even been on it.
Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not going to get on TikTok. But again, you have to study the platform. And when I say that, you got to understand the algorithm. You got to understand what TikTok offers. So when I first got on TikTok, my son was like, Ma, you should start a TikTok. I was the same way. I'm like, I'm not dancing on TikTok, dude. Like, no. But then when I went in and actually looked at how the platform behaves, I'm like, oh, TikTok, like people are on TikTok all day long. Like it's blowing YouTube numbers out of the water. And so I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be on TikTok, I know that product placement on TikTok, I could become a merchant and probably sell more on TikTok than I do on YouTube. And so I tried it and it worked. And so it's like, okay, YouTube or TikTok shops, like their shopping, it is crazy on there. Like you can go live and make so much money if you do it the right way. And I've been on YouTube longer than TikTok, and I made more money on TikTok than I did YouTube. But it's understanding how the platforms work. Pinterest is another thing. Pinterest, people don't understand that Pinterest is like Google. It's a search engine. It's not just a social media platform. So if you have a product on Pinterest and you become a Pinterest a merchant, you get to really sell your product as you would on Google. So again, you have to understand the different platforms.
Right. Yep.
I think just one other thing to keep in mind with that is if it's not a platform you're comfortable on, to hire out, right? But I would say pick up, at least at first, right? Pick platforms that you're comfortable with and you're going to be okay. Like if that's another barrier for you to be posting consistently, you know, you want to outsource it or find another solution, not have it be like, oh, I have to do that again.
Yeah. And then do you guys, is there like a certain amount percentage-wise that you think a small business owner should dedicate to marketing budget-wise?
Budget-wise, I mean, it really depends on your business and your specific marketing goals, and yeah, there should be a budget though.
Time budget, how much time, that's
Mm,
the harder part.
yeah.
You can look at how much revenue
Yep.
and the results you can kind of do some math, but time is much harder.
And right, the number, the dollar amount needs to be higher if your time is less, right? You're gonna need to spend more outside of doing it yourself if you don't have it, but yeah.
Budgeting the one-on-ones, the speaking engagements, the social media, all those different
Yep.
time buckets.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Have you, so going into it thinking that you were targeting one market and then realizing, like, has that ever happened where you were like, okay, this is who I'm targeting, and realize from the data, oh, that's actually not who I'm targeting, and has that made you pivot in your business?
Yeah. Something.
Yes. I did find more recently that, again, when you think, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get back on. I took like a whole break because I was pregnant with my son. And I came back and I'm like, okay, I know my market. Got back out there and they're like, crickets. And they're like, we don't want to see you. Where you been at? And so I'm like, okay, I need to kind of figure out where I land now. And so your experiences is always like the thing that you can push. And so I'm like, I just had a kid. I'm going through perimenopause, and so I'm like, I'm just going to get out there and talk about my life. And so when I started doing that, it's like, oh, okay, this is who I am. And this is who I'm speaking to now because this is where I am. So I started talking to people, but then I started to find out when I launched these hair toppers that I did that over the 2-year span, hair loss had took on this big old thing. Like everybody has hair loss agents in their products and stuff. Everybody is an expert. And so when I came back on the scene, I felt like I was kind of behind. And I noticed that when I was selling, I got a lot of feedback from gray-haired women. And I was not making products for them. And so I'm like, oh, I think I'm missing out on a market here. And they were angry. And so now I'm kind of working with my manufacturing company to try to see if I can, because it's like an open lane. But I feel like now where I am that I can kind of pivot and market to them because no one is paying attention to them. And they're like, hey, you're missing us, and we are, we're missing hair too, and there's no hair for us here. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was more like internal. So when I first started, I did research on different types of editing and I was offering all of them. But then I realized obviously there was some that I was better at, some that I didn't like as much. So I usually outsource my copy editing or proofreading. I usually outsource that because it's the least fun for me. It's important, but it's not necessarily my passion. And obviously, when you're passionate about something, you perform much better because you're excited about it. So again, with pivoting, just realizing you can't do it all, you shouldn't be doing it all, and you really need to focus on what makes you feel the best, what you're best at. Pay attention to what your clients are saying. So you might think you're a better painter, but all of your clients are coming to you for photography. So just paying attention to that. Is it something that, again, you enjoy, you're good at, you're passionate about, and your clients are telling you that's what they want you to do for them?
I love that. Yeah, like we're really paying attention to your market is key. I'll just kind of like throw in my little story really quickly. So aside from Studio VJF, I have a mindful wellness business. And I thought because I started my business out of postpartum depression with my first daughter, I thought, young moms at that time would be my audience and my market. And it ended up being the journal sessions that I host and the products that I've created really resonated with college students who were stressed out, needed an outlet, and then it also resonated with an older audience. So I was seeing, my dad's age group, and not quite my grandmother, but my dad's age group, so like the 50 to 65-ish range, who were trying to unlearn things about themselves and rework. And so my entire business flipped on its head, and that's where my marketing went. So being able to pivot is really key. Lomax.
Yes, and you all talked about pivoting and learning in the midst of doing something that you needed to adjust. Since having had those experiences, what approach have you all taken to market research, environmental scanning? Do you have any specific frameworks? Have you already touched on this?
Um, I think that I am learning to budget in marketing. Before it was like I need to do everything myself because I think this is expensive, and now it's like no, this is important. This is mandatory. So marketing has to have its own budget. I can't do everything, even though I can do it, doesn't mean that I should be doing it. And so now, even with relaunching my website, I'm like, before I had a website that I did myself, because I have that background, I can design everything, but I took the time to really add that budget into my business and I paid for a website and it made like I paid a web developer, not just like a free Wix website. And it made the difference in my business because it looks so polished and clean in the way that it responds. It's just I could never have done that, and it cost me a pretty penny, but it's benefiting my business. And so I'm learning too that I have to make sure that I'm okay with paying for an investment that's going to also create profit in my business, and be okay with that, and delegate the things, and professional, top notch professional people that can really give me that look and not to be afraid to pay for it.
Yeah. And I would say, you get what you pay for. We say that, but it's really true. So I'm an editor, but when I write my books, I hire an editor because I need a third party who's not attached, but I also need someone professional who I can trust to, publish the work, the way it needs to be published or printed, who's going to give me the feedback that I'm looking for. Even though I'm in that field, that doesn't mean that I don't need that help as well. I don't need that assistance. So it's okay, again, to outsource, and to pay top dollar for it, or pay as much as you possibly can. Obviously, your income and revenue will change, and you might have to adjust some things and do some things yourself. But as you grow and you have the revenue, don't be afraid to invest. I think using the word invest is so much better than expense, because how do we feel when we say expenses, versus investment? So I encourage you all to, take a look at who's around you, what's around you, that will help you propel yourself and your business.
We have several small businesses in the room, and a lot of what you're involved in with your businesses is distinguishing your creativeness and approach. For somebody that might be, I'm thinking of some of the clients we work with, somebody that's in construction, or somebody that's pouring concrete, or somebody that has a bakery. Um, how how would they look at, like, online? Is that a way for them to go, and or are they more sales generation versus? Uh,
So I can kind of jump in here, and then, but my first thought is, my first thought went to what kind of reels they could be posting, right? Showing the behind the scenes, the day to day. People want to know who's behind the business. They want to know who they're working with. So that's another way to tell your story. So if you have a construction business or a bakery, maybe you're showing your process of laying the foundation of a home, or baking a bagel. Baking a bagel. That sounds weird. But you're showing that behind the scenes of it in terms of like being online. I think with, I guess, construction and those businesses, I could be wrong, but I think one of the best routes to go is networking, and network marketing in a sense, and really getting to know people in that field and what projects are going on, and that comes, in line with joining groups, even online with Facebook. Maybe you're not posting, but maybe you're researching and finding construction groups or home remodeling Facebook groups or Instagram, whatever profiles. In that way, you're kind of being creative with being online and finding new clients to grow your business. I hope that answers. I have never done anything in construction, and I'm a horrible baker. So,
I would. I think they should be online. I mean, maybe if they're just starting, it's not going to be a first priority, but you should definitely be online. In this day and age, you're missing out on a big audience, a lot of hours of time that people are spending. So definitely having your own website, definitely being on Google Business, definitely picking a social media platform that's comfortable for you or one that you can hire out for, and then like a long form content, so YouTube, blog, something where they can be talking about what they're doing to a layman, right? Or to whoever they need to be talking to. Yeah, I think definitely being online is important.
Yeah, and I would say another thing too, like sometimes I'll see I like creators who have like a DIY picture and then they have a picture of what it would look like if you hired that company to do it for you. So that's a great way. Another way, one thing that I do is when I work with clients, like Lee is one of my clients. So she had a book signing with her employer, so I shared that. So I didn't have to do, much but click share. But that also opens me up to people who are following Lee and vice versa. People on my page will see Lee, they might be interested in her book. So that's something I do a lot. Like when my clients host book signings, if I'm not able to go, and even when I am, getting pictures of that. Like this was the goal of me editing the book. Look at how far they've come. So just paying attention to what my clients are doing and using that as part of my content as well.
Yeah, I agree. Even like with you, Ben, everybody knows Ben. Okay, well, Ben was in our pitch competition. Restoring homes, doing before and afters, letting your families give testimonials, especially here in Rochester we got a whole bunch of slumlords. That's a part of your mission, not being a slumlord, not being another slumlord, talking about how you engage in a community and letting your family speak about the work that you do. That can go right on social media. That can be a reel. People love before and after, especially if you're making something that looks terrible look beautiful. People love watching stuff like that. So yeah, everybody should have an online presence to some capacity.
yeah, love that. So, we are at 108. And I want to thank first everyone for coming out, showing up, learning about marketing, entrepreneurs, helping entrepreneurs. This is part of a series called Lunch Bytes, and I will send out a link where you can join for free, our Venture Jobs network. And so this will be up, recorded. Give me about a week or two to edit it. But it'll be up for you to share, for you to rewatch, get these tips again. I will be sending out maybe 2 documents with different free tools that we can use, as well as all the tips that we heard here today. Thank you to Assunta, to Katira, and to Suzanne for being our panelists for today. And thank you for letting me play Oprah. This was fun. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Oh my God. Oh, do your seat. But thank you all so much. Feel free to hang around and network if you need to, if you have to leave. Again, thank you for coming and chatting with us today. Appreciate it.